Welcome again to our MIT mentorship meeting. It's great to be here with you. And on today, we're going to be discussing the importance of post-traumatic stress syndrome. Let me get that together. All right. And so, once again, my name is Craig. I'm here today to share some information with you. I am a certified peer recovery specialist. And so, as I was stating earlier, this is our mentorship MIT Men in Training support group. And so this month of June, we're touching base with post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder, post-traumatic stress disorders. All month long, we want to bring some type of awareness. And so with that said, I want to let you know this article was brought to you by psychiatry.org. You can go online and retrieve this information. So without further ado, I'm going to put the title scrolling across the screen, and that is, what is post-traumatic stress disorder, better known as PTSD? The article says post-traumatic stress disorder is a psychiatric disorder that may occur in people who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event, series of events, or set of circumstances. An individual may experience this as emotionally or physically harmful or life-threatening, and may affect mental, physical, social, and or spiritual well-being. Right? Examples include natural disasters, serious accident, terrorist acts, war and combat, rape and sexual assault, historical trauma, intimate partner violence, and bullying. So yes, this is a men's mentoring support group. And so we want to enlighten men, because men is so vital in the role that we play as men in our household, as husbands, as fathers, as brothers, and so as loved ones all together. And so therefore, we need to be healthy. We need to look into what is post-traumatic stress disorders, because a lot of times we may have these illness, or we may be experiencing some of these symptoms that I'm going to read or go over, and we may not know that we even have them, because we probably haven't never been adequately assessed with or by professional healthcare providers. So we're going to get right into what this article entails. Right? It says PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, has been known by many names in the past, such as shell shock during the years of World War I and combat fatigue after World War II. But PTSD does not just happen to combat veterans. PTSD can occur in all people of any ethnicity, nationality, or culture, and at any age. PTSD affects approximately 3.5% of United States adults every year. The lifetime prevalence of post-traumatic stress disorder in adolescent ages 13 through 18 is 8%. An estimated 1 in 11 people will be diagnosed with PTSD in their lifetime. Women who are twice as likely as men to have PTSD. Right? It said 3 ethnic groups: U.S. Latinos, African Americans, and Native American and Alaska natives are disproportionately affected and have higher rate of PTSD than non-Latino whites. Okay, so these are some statistics that the article is sharing, enlightening us, letting us know who are being affected and at what alarming rate. It says people with PTSD have intense, disturbing thoughts and feelings related to other experience that last long after the traumatic event has ended. They may relive the event through flashbacks or nightmares. They may feel sadness, fear, or anger, and they may feel detached or estranged from other people. People with PTSD may avoid situations or people that remind them of the traumatic event, and they may have strong negative reactions to something as ordinary as a loud noise or an accidental touch. A diagnosis of PTSD requires exposure to an upsetting traumatic event. Exposures include directly experiencing an event, witnessing a traumatic event happening to others, or learning that a traumatic event happened to a close family member or friend. It can also occur as a result of repeated exposure to horrible details of trauma, such as police officers exposed to details of child abuse cases. Let's find out some of the symptoms and diagnosis. All right, and it says symptoms of PTSD fall into the following four categories. Specific symptoms can vary in severity. Number one, intrusion. Intrusive thoughts such as repeated involuntary memories, distressing dreams, or flashbacks of the traumatic event. Flashback may be so vivid that people feel they are reliving the traumatic experience or seeing it before their eyes. And so, just in case you may be wondering, said, okay, why are we talking about post-traumatic stress disorder? Because a lot of times people with co-occurring conditions, that is, those who may be experiencing substance abuse disorders or may be experiencing mental illness disorder, may not know that some of the root causes of why people are using drugs or why people are experiencing either or mental health disorders, because a lot of times due to PTSD, because some people may be masking their masking their illness, their mental health illness, or their mental illness with some type of substance abuse, whether it's alcohol or drugs, or they can be don't know how to cope with such traumatic incidents that may occur in their life. And so it's very important that we get to the root of why people are struggling in our lifestyle at home, in our relationships, on our jobs, and society within our community. And so this type of information is very vital, especially when the men, as I read earlier, statistic is so high. So I believe this information is very important that we get it out to the community and let people know what's going on and how we can help. All right. And so we talked about symptoms and diagnosis were, first one was intrusion. The second one talks about avoidance. All right. It says avoidance reminders of the traumatic event may include avoiding people, places, activities, objects, and situations that may trigger distressing memories. People may try to avoid remembering or thinking about the traumatic event. They may resist talking about what happened or how they feel about it. Number three, alterations in cognition and mood. Inability to remember important aspects of the traumatic event. Negative thoughts and feelings leading to ongoing and distorted beliefs about oneself or others. For example, I am bad, no one can be trusted. Distorted thoughts about the cause or consequences of the event leading to wrongly blame yourself or other, ongoing fear, horror, anger, guilt, or shame, much less interest in activities previously enjoyed. Feeling detached or estranged from others or being unable to experience positive emotions, a void of happiness or satisfaction. All right? And so that is something that need to be taken a good look at when it talks about alteration in cognition and mood, whereas one may look upon themselves as being bad or that they cannot trust someone due to the hurt or the trauma, past trauma that they have experienced. So we need to get people back into getting back into some normalcy and being able to enjoy some of the good pleasures that most other people enjoy that doesn't or who haven't experienced traumatic stress disorders. All right. Number 4 talks about alteration in arousal and reactivity. Arousal and reactive symptoms may include being irritable and having angry outbursts, having recklessly, behaving recklessly or in a self-destructive way, being overly watchful of one's surroundings in a suspecting way, being easily startled, or having problems concentrating or sleeping. Many people who are exposed to a traumatic event experience symptoms similar to those described above in the days following the event. For a person to be diagnosed with PTSD, however, symptoms must last for more than a month and must cause significant distress or problems in the individual's daily functioning. Many individuals develop symptoms within 3 months of the trauma, but symptoms may appear later and often persist for months and sometimes years. PTSD often occurs with other related conditions such as depression, substance use, memory problems, and other physical and mental health problems. Okay? And so, what are some of the related conditions that deals with PTSD? And so, for anyone that may be watching this later on, we are talking about post-traumatic stress disorder. And so, as you can see on the screen, it's rolling. It is, and the title of this article, it says, "What is post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD?" And so now we're going to talk about related conditions. Number one of the ones that the article make mention of is acute stress disorder. Acute stress disorders occurs in reaction to a traumatic event, just as PTSD does, and the symptoms are similar. However, the symptoms occur between 3 days and 1 month after the event. People with acute stress disorder may relive the trauma, have flashbacks or nightmares, or may feel numb or detached from themselves. These symptoms cause major distress and problems in their daily lives. About half of people with acute stress disorder go on to have PTSD. These are related conditions, acute stress disorder. Acute stress disorders has been diagnosed in 19% of 50% of individuals that experience interpersonal violence, for example, rape, assault, intimate partner violence. Psychotherapy, including cognitive behavioral therapy, can help control symptoms and help prevent them from getting worse and developing into PTSD. Medications such as SSRI, antidepressants, can help ease the symptoms as well. So the article make mention there are 2 forms, and one is through medication, and the other one is through psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. All right. And so the other one, adjustment disorder. So people may be feeling some type of way when it comes to adjustment disorders. All right. Adjustment disorder occurs in response to a stressful life event or events. Emotional or behavioral symptoms a person experiences in response to the stresses are generally more severe or more intense than what would be reasonable expected for the type of event that occurred. Symptoms can include feeling tense, sad, or hopeless, withdrawing from other people, acting defiantly, or showing impulsive behavior, or physical manifestations like tremors, palpitations, and headaches. The symptom cause significant stress or problem function in key areas of someone's life, for example, at work, school, or in social interactions. Symptoms of adjustment disorder begin with 3 months of a stressful event and last one no longer than 6 months after the stressors or its consequences have ended. Stressors may be a single event, such as a romantic breakup. Wow. Okay. And so these talking about adjustment disorders, right? And so even in a romantic breakup, you can experience some stressors, or there may be more than one event with a cumulative effect. Stressors may be recurrent or continuous, such as an ongoing painful illness with increasing disability. Stressors may affect a single individual, an entire family, or a larger group or community. For example, in the case of a natural disasters. All right, we're talking about adjustment disorder, making the adjustment or dealing with the stresses of how one can adjust or what can be some of the effects from post-traumatic stress disorder. And an estimated 5% to 20% of individuals in outpatient mental health treatment have a principal diagnosis of adjustment disorder. A recent study found that more than 15% of adults with cancer had adjustment disorder. It is typically treated with psychotherapy. All right. Another disorder we want to talk about, and that is disinhibited social engagement disorder. And I know these are some big terms and big definition and big words that or maybe words that we probably not used to hearing, such as adjustment disorder, disinhibited social engagement disorder, and acute stress disorder. But do not fear, because this information, once you get familiar with the language, familiar with the definition, how they can be relatable, what are some of the signs and symptoms, and what are the diagnoses, we can better adjust to what it is and get a better comprehension on what we're dealing with. This inhibited social engagement disorder occurs in children who have experienced severe social neglect or deprivation before the age of 2. Wow. Wow. We're talking about young children before the age of 2 who have been affected by disinhibited social engagement. So we know this is a men's MIT training, men in training, mentorship. So the whole goal is to help men to support one another, because we know there are some men who have young children in their lives. We know men that have older children in their lives, and we want to be a support for one another and know the importance of why we're addressing these issues, because a lot of these issues definitely is affecting our community, affecting our household, our relationship, our community, our work, our school. And so we need to get on top of what's important in our lives, because we as men, people are looking up to us. And so therefore, we have to represent what it is to be that strong figure, not only physically, but also mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. All right. And so that's why I feel real close to, so excited about sharing this information on today. Disability, then this goes on to say, similar to reactive attachment disorder, it can occur when children lack the basic emotional needs for comfort, stimulation, and affection, or when repeated changes in caregivers, such as frequent foster care changes, prevent them from forming stable attachments. Okay? Inhibited social engagement disorder involves a child engaging in overly familiar or culturally inappropriate behavior with unfamiliar adults. For example, the child may be willing to go off with an unfamiliar adult with minimal or no hesitation. That is serious, man. That is very serious. That is an issue that if you see it and you notice it in someone that in your household or anyone that's related to you or of a dear friend, if their child or anyone that by this definition have those or distribute those type of behavior, a young person who will wander off with a stranger without any hesitation, that is a serious issue that need to be addressed because we're talking about post-traumatic stress disorders. And so this one that I'm talking about now talks about disinhibited social engagement disorder. Developmental delays, including cognitive and language delays, often co-occur with this disorder. Caregiving quality has been chosen to mediate the course of this illness. Yet, even with improvements in the caregiving movement, some children may have symptoms that persist through adolescence. Okay? The prevalence of this inhibited social engagement disorder is unknown, but it is thought to be rare. Most severely neglected children do not develop the disorder. The most important treatment modality is to work with caregivers to ensure the child has an emotionally available attachment figure. All right? And so that's kind of touchy for me. It's really touching just to hear and know that when a child has been neglected, even from the comfort or the care or the love from even someone that's related to them and so we have to be more mindful that we need to get this behavior, this neglect under control, and we need to be more attentive to young people because they are so watchful. They are so I want to say attentive to what we do and what we say, and so we have to be a good example for them. We have to show them, and not by so much what we say, but what we do through our behavior. And so, if you're watching this, please take the time out and love on your children, and let them know that it's okay to ask questions and to if there's anything that's bothering them to express themselves. All right. And so the next one we want to talk about reactive attachment disorder. Reactive attachment disorder occurs in children who have experienced severe social neglect or deprivation during their first years of life. It can occur when children lack the basic emotional needs for comfort, stimulation, and affection, or when repeated changes in caregivers, such as frequent foster care change, prevent them from forming stable attachment. Children with reactive attachment disorder are emotionally withdrawn from their adult caregivers. They rarely turn to caregivers for comfort, support, or protection, or do not respond to comforting when they are distressed. During routine interaction with caregivers, they show little positive emotion and may show unexplained fear or sadness. The problems appear before age 5. Developmental delays, especially cognitive and language delays, often occur along the disorder. The reactive attachment disorder is uncommon, even in severely neglected children. Treatment involves a therapist working with the child and their family in order to strengthen the relationship between the child and their primary caregivers. Let's talk about the treatment aspect, all right? And so we just went over, let me go back a little bit. We went over related conditions that deals with symptoms and diagnosis of PTSD. Now we want to talk about the treatment phase to help us along the journey. It said it is important to know that not everyone who experiences trauma develops PTSD, and not everyone who develops PTSD requires psychiatric treatment. For some people, symptoms of PTSD subside or disappear over time. Others get better with the help of their support system, family, friends, or clergy. But many people with PTSD need professional treatment to recover from psychological distress that can be intense and disabling. It is important to remember that trauma may lead to severe distress. That distress is not the individual's fault, and PTSD is treatable. All right, let me read that again. It says, it is important to remember that trauma may lead to severe distress. It says that distress is not the individual's fault, and PTSD is treatable. The earlier a person gets treatment, the better chances of recovery. Psychiatrists and other mental health professionals use various effective research-proven methods to help people recover from PTSD. Both talk therapy, psychotherapy, and medication provide effective evidence-based treatment for PTSD. All right. And so cognitive behavioral therapy, what is that? One category of psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, better known as CBT, is very effective. Cognitive processing therapy, prolonged exposure therapy, and stress inoculation therapy described below are among the types of CBT used to treat PTSD. And so there's a list of psychotherapy that's listed in here, and I'm just going to name a few. Cognitive processing therapy, all right, is an evidence-based cognitive behavioral therapy designed specifically to treat PTSD and comorbid symptoms. Prolonged exposure therapy uses repeated detailed imagining of the trauma or progressive exposure to symptoms triggers in a safe, controlled way to help a person face and gain control of fear and distress and learn to cope. Trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy is an evidence-based treatment model for children and adolescents that incorporates trauma-sensitive interventions with cognitive behavioral, family, and humanistic principles and techniques. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing for PTSD is a trauma-focused psychotherapy which is administered over approximately 3 months. And the last one is group therapy. Encourages survivors of similar trauma events to share their experiences and reactions in a comfortable and non-judgmental setting. Other therapies, psychotherapy such as interpersonal, supportive, and psychodynamic therapy focus on the emotional and interpersonal aspect of PTSD. These may be helpful for people who do not want to expose themselves to reminders of their trauma. And last but not least is medication. All right, medication can help to control the symptoms of PTSD. In addition, the symptom relief that medication provides allow many people to participate more effectively in psychotherapy. Some antidepressants, such as SSRIs and SNRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and serotonin non-re oh boy, serotonin well, however you pronounce that word, inhibitors are commonly used to treat the core symptom of PTSD. All right, and so they are used either alone or in combination with psychotherapy or other treatments. All right, and so other treatments are including complementary and alternative therapy are also increasingly being used to help people with PTSD. These approaches provide treatment outside conventional mental health clinic and may require less talking and disclosure than psychotherapies. All right, and so wow, that's a lot of data, a lot of scientific data, a lot of information that I shared. This is brought to you by psychiatry.org. And believe, trust me, this is some very powerful information. I know it may be hard to comprehend at first. However, there are some information in here for everyone. And so if there is someone who may be interested in learning more about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, feel free to pull up this article, and there may be some other relatable material that you may want to look into before considering, especially if you're having doubts or you are fearful or seeking professional help. Do some research, learn more about it, and then once you begin to become more comfortable with the idea and what some of the signs and symptoms and diagnosis and what they all about. And so, what are some of the disorders and how they affect children? To tell you the truth, this information that deals with children at such a very young age, uh, to me, was very enlightening, very alarming. And so that is something that I'm going to really absorb and really begin to be more attentive, especially when it comes to young people, because we need to watch over them as caretakers, parents, loved ones, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to do our just due diligence to be leaders and healthy, not only for ourselves, but others. Because if we're no good to, we're not healthy for ourselves, we can't help no one else. Until the next time, this has been a post-traumatic stress disorder article that I shared with you. And so I hope you have learned something. And until the next time, my name is Craig. I enjoyed every bit of this session. Take care. So long.